talking about simulations, there's no way around Farming Simulator. In this case, the version released in 2018, which is of course for 2019, like typical sport games. In case that was too complicated, it's about Farming Simulator 19. The game is the 7th part of an almost yearly series, and at the time of the recording there is already a successor, Farming Simulator 22. But we will take a look at that at another time. The game was developed by Giant Software and is available pretty much everywhere, on Steam, as a hardcopy DVD and in the Xbox Game Pass, just to name a few examples. In this game we are taken to the two charming worlds of Ravenport and Felsbrunn. The environments are lovely, whereas the overall graphics are not top-notch, but that's not the game's claim. The quite beautiful environments are contrasted by the somewhat clunky character graphics. Of course, you only see them when you play together with others, but you feel more reminded of Minecraft than of a character representation that matches the scenery. On the other hand, Giant Software has put a lot of effort into the machines. The vehicles and tractors look very realistic. Of course, the fact that real brands and manufacturers of the machines are used also helps. Since you see yourself quite rarely, the landscape and also the fields to be farmed, and especially the machines look really good, the game also feels pretty good. The sounds of the machines are appropriate and reinforce the positive feeling of the game. And if you want to, you can also turn on the radio to listen to country music. All in all, the menu navigation takes a bit of getting used to. You don't always see directly where which functions are hidden, but once you get the hang of it, it works pretty well. Controller support is available, but we didn't test it. We controlled the game with mouse and keyboard. Each vehicle and each trailer has different properties and must be operated individually. Sounds complex, but there is a legend that is displayed for each machine and attachment. This shows exactly which function can be controlled with which key. Getting started with Farming Simulator is surprisingly difficult. At least if you start your first game with your own farm like we did. Can't be that hard, right? Truth is that we were completely lost until Micah, honorary geek and good friend, gave us a crash course in farming. First you have to buy land. We were that far too, but the location and size is crucial. As flat as possible with some grassy areas, not too big. Then put a farm building on it and step 1 of countless others is done. The shopping list of tractors, trailers, machines, forks, fertilizers and other great things to be able to plant the first cereals was very long. And these are only the beginner machines. With these you take care of the first field, you plow, sow, weed, fertilize, harvest and wait for the right moment to sell. These processes take their time, but surprisingly it is also a lot of fun. Now you have to manage well to be able to buy more equipment, more land and bigger tractors, trucks and other vehicles, or you can go into cattle breeding. Here we have the usual candidates: cows, pigs, sheep, chicken and, as an insider tip, horses. Especially with the last mentioned, you can earn quite good money, and you can ride out as well. Apart from the harvested plants, there's unfortunately nothing to collect in Farming Simulator, but there are achievements. But here too, there's bad news. You can only earn them in single player. Unfortunately, they do not appear in co-op sessions. A real bummer. The economic system can be described at best as simple. There is a display for the value of the corresponding goods. The only other information is, suggested by an arrow, whether the price is currently rising, falling or stagnating. What the system is influenced by, we don't know. One of the easiest way to make money is silage. In other words, mowing the lawn and bagging the whole thing so that it is preserved by fermentation. These silage bales, with the exception of the machines used, are free because the grass just keeps growing back. And it can also be grown on the fields. We bought large quantities of trailers, collected silage and when the price was right, sold it. And to our surprise, the price isn't directly affected by selling larger amounts. To take advantage of this, it is useful to set the time control to slow at the right time. A simple economic system. The money generated by this system then also wants to be spent. Who is allowed to do what on the farm is determined by an authorization menu. Not everyone is allowed to buy new equipment from the store from the start. In addition to the store mentioned, there are various places to sell goods, and the vehicle and equipment want to be repaired and refueled. There is no combat system in Farming Simulator, but you do fight against the physics of the game from time to time. Especially in hilly areas, the machines might act a bit unpredictable. But no one's gonna stop you if you want to fight in tractors against other players to kill some time while the grass is growing. When starting a new Farming Simulator game, you have the choice of 3 startup scenarios: New Farmer, Farm Manager and Start from Scratch. In principle, these scenarios describe the difficulty levels: easy, normal and hard. In the first one, you start with land, basic equipment and money. In the normal difficulty level, you have 1.25 million in your account and you have to buy and build everything yourself. The same goes for the hard scenario, except your account is at 0. So you have to take missions en masse before you can afford your own farm. We started our farm at the medium difficulty level. The challenge was definitely there, despite the high amount of money. In addition to the work on your own farm, you can also make yourself useful as a helper, because in the mission menu you can always find tasks that you can do for money, either with your own equipment or you can rent it for a small fee. But be careful with the choice of jobs. Some jobs sound tempting, but take hours for relatively little money. Except of this, there is no story in the game. In multiplayer, each player on the server can theoretically create their own farm. But isn't it better to manage the hard fieldwork together? There's only one type of game in the already mentioned difficulty levels, and here up to 16 players can do their mischief together. Of course, this can and will speed up the progress of the farm. If enough people work together, several fields can be farmed and various tasks can be completed in parallel. Thus, money can be earned rapidly and further equipment can be purchased. The only drawback? Of course, you need enough equipment to supply the amount of players with vehicles and so on. In our experience, the starting sum is sufficient to supply 3 to 4 players with machines. At times there are 5 of us and it took us a while to acquire the money to buy more equipment, but then you can just rotate. You also have to eat something. This game is once again a good example of a well-functioning modding community. Here you can find countless quality of life mods that simplify your life. It is also very nice that there is an in-game mod menu in which you can directly search and filter community mods. We also picked 3 mods here so that the game didn't become so much of a grindfest. Besides mods, the game can also be expanded with additional paid content in form of DLCs. For example, there are more vehicles or a farm in the Alps and much more. There are a few points of criticism that reduce the overall fun of the game, starting with the economic system. Actually, you can't even call it that. If processing grass into silage is the best way to earn money, then this is very weak. Here we strongly advise to use mods, which will beef up the system a bit. Otherwise, you will have to harvest the field dozens of times before you can afford more machines. This is by far the biggest point from our side, but we still have a few. I already mentioned game physics. In some places it just feels like the tractor has virtually no weight anymore and inclines are then hardly manageable. The tools for adjusting the ground level are also very difficult to use. There's room for improvement here. Also the graphics and animations of the characters. We understand that the focus of this game is on farming, but it is the 3rd title of the farming simulator that supports co-op. A little more attention to detail here would be really desirable. And after a few hours of playing, we also noticed the missing seasons. This, of course, would complicate seeding out, but in our opinion, and the opinion of various reviews of the game, would belong to a farming simulator. We also had some issues with the synchronization between players in our co-op game. Tree trunks that didn't really exist anymore were still in the way of other players, and the persistent problem with branches and stones lying on the ground. You can clear them away as often as you like, but every time you load the game they are there again. Not only visually unsightly, but you can also get stuck on them. Last but not least, many voices claim that the game has hardly any improvements compared to its predecessors. This is a fact that we can't verify at the moment, but we will keep that in mind when we play Farming Simulator 22. First you think that it's just a farming simulator and it must be totally boring, and bang, 50 hours later you're still farming. Funny and creepy at the same time.
Personally, I find Farming Simulator really interesting to play only for a very short time, as there are very few new things to achieve in the long run.
I had no great expectations and the game was installed just for fun. I actually liked it a lot and learned a lot about agriculture.
I like simulators. I can also play House Flipper all day, so Farming Simulator just struck a nerve at the beginning, but unfortunately could not completely convince.
All in all, we had some good laughs and it was a great pastime. You quickly feel like an agriculture expert after a while. Some of us have played within a short time over 50 hours. Unfortunately, the longer you play, the more you notice the game little aches and pains. Some of them we were able to heal with mods, but unfortunately others not. This quickly makes the game seem too grindy and it becomes monotonous. The small things like the character graphics or the disabled achievements in multiplayer are also bothersome. But we don't regret the time played. It was fun and not a waste of time. So, overall much better than we thought, but not as good as it could have been. Did you enjoy the video and want to see more like this? If you have any awesome idea how we can improve our content, or maybe you just have a cool game in mind what we should play next, just leave us a comment down below and you know the drill with like, subscribe, don't forget the little bell that you get a notification every time we upload a new video. Did you know that we are building up a Discord co-op community where you can find people to play co-op games with or just talk with like-minded gamers about just anything? You can also directly talk or even play with us there. So, we are always happy to welcome new members and see you in the next video.